Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Heather and today we are going to be looking at 15 fall fashion trends straight from the runway, discussing what we think about them, do we love them, do we not love them, and also what sewing patterns and fabrics you can utilize to achieve some of these trends. My opinion's just my opinion. Feel free to throw it out the window. We're all going to like different things. That's perfectly okay. So definitely let me know down in the comments what you think of these different trends and if you will be sewing any of these up yourself. So I've picked 15 just from doing some research online. These are the ones that seem to keep coming up over and over. And because it's just fashion forecasting, it doesn't mean that all of these will become super trendy either, but it is what is predicted to become trendy as it was seen a lot on the runway. Okay, so these are in no particular order, but the first thing I have on the list is faux fur. Now, faux fur has been in and out of style forever, so it's kind of stood the test of time. However, it's not particularly my thing. I don't mind it as an accent on something, but a full fur look is just personally not my aesthetic. However, I do think with most things, there is somebody that finds a way to rock it. So again, just because it's not for me, doesn't mean someone else isn't going to pull it off and make it look fantastic. So because we're talking more about a fabric here than we are about a particular garment, I went ahead and I pulled up some faux fur fabrics. I found one that I particularly liked, and I will leave links to anything in the description box for you. But this is the John Loudon Luxury Faux Fur fabric from Minerva.com. I do have quite a few Minerva fabrics on here because I'm very familiar with their website. They have great stuff and they ship internationally. But I just thought this one was kind of interesting. And if you do go check it out and you scroll down, a lot of times makers that have used these fabrics will have makes to show you what it looks like in action, which is kind of nice. So there is a faux fur coat down on the website as well. Okay, so number 2 on the list is the color brown. Now, I saw so much brown in my searching, lots of different shades, but primarily I kept seeing really, really dark chocolate brown, almost black at a point. I know we've heard this whole brown is the new black many times. I'm not an adopter of that. I am definitely black all day long. However, again, when it's done really well, I do think it can look nice. On a personal level, I just don't enjoy playing with brown a whole lot. I don't enjoy pairing brown a whole lot. So it really all just depends on how you dress it up. Do I think it can work for a lot of people? Sure, absolutely. It's just not my personal color choice, but you're going to see a lot of that. And because it is the fall time, if you're going to work with a chocolate brown, it is a good time to do so. We're also seeing that chocolate brown in a lot of like leather, faux leather, and or suede. So I have picked out a couple fabrics again that will be linked in the description box, which Minerva has a core range, soft, supple stretch faux leather fabric in a nice dark brown, along with many other shades. And then I also pulled up from Fabric Wholesale Direct a chocolate brown micro suede, which could be fun to play with this fall as well. That brings us to number 3 on the list, and that is pencil skirts / A-line skirts. Now, this is kind of a funny one to me because I just think that's a classic all-timer. It's weird to me that this is kind of trending. I just think it never really goes away, but hey, I like a pencil skirt, so I'm certainly here for it. I do think it's a very flattering silhouette on most body types and will stand the test of time, which is something that I personally love. I do love my classics. So I found a few sewing patterns to sew up a nice pencil skirt, and I tried to look for a variety of styles of that because you did see it styled very differently. It's not just a plain A-line pencil skirt all the time. So the first pattern I pulled up was Simplicity 9710, and you will see there are a couple of views without that kind of dropped hem in the front that are more of an A-line knee-length pencil style skirt. And I just thought it was interesting because with these, you've got the pockets to play with, you've got some more interest, so it's not just a plain A-line pencil skirt. The next one I pulled up, I think I'm gonna be making myself, and that is Vogue 2069. I love the longer view in this, the one that's not quite a maxi. I think that is stunning, and I kind of want to make one. And I think, again, staying in that A-line theme, you can go longer like that. I think it's a really good look. And the last one I pulled up is by Patterns for Pirates, which is the Sophia pencil skirt. This is a more standard traditional, so if you're just looking for something in a nice fun fabric, classic silhouette, this would be a great one. And they do also have projector files for anyone that does projector sewing. That brings us to number 4 on the list, which is sheerness. Lots of sheer stuff kept coming up. A lot of stuff I'm not going to post on the internet because a lot of exposure going on, which is not my thing. However, with a lot of runway style garments, they're going to be exaggerated, for the runway. So when you see it, down to real life, a lot of these things are going to be less exaggerated. However, I don't mind a sheer moment. Obviously, I'm not going to be exposed. That's definitely not my thing. But even having a little camisole or something under certain things, or a slip dress, depending on what the item is. Sheerness can be very, very beautiful. A lot of playing with sheer and lace kept coming up as well, so some really pretty things there. So in terms of patterns for this, the thing is, you can do sheer in a lot of things. So, you could take a pair of pants and, let's say at short level, chop it off and do sheer all the way down. There are ways to play with sheerness in just about any garment. So in terms of finding patterns, I will give you a few that I found, but really you could use a lot of things. So it's kind of a hard one to nail down for patterns. But the first pattern that I pulled out, I'll put the number right here. It's not in front of me at the moment, but it's a Mimi G pattern with Simplicity, I believe. And it's this kind of sheer overcoat she's got on the front. It's a pattern I've had that I've wanted to do for a really long time. And I do think this is a fun garment to play with sheerness because it's kind of a maxi, shirt dress / coat pattern. That one will be fun to play with. The next one I pulled up was the Blouse Fiamma by Vicky Sews. Now, I haven't done a Vicky Sews pattern yet, but at the time that I'm filming this, at least, there's a sale going on, and it's a pattern company I've heard a lot of good things about. I know they're reputable. I've been wanting to try them. And I just thought this blouse was kind of interesting because the way they chose to style this is using a lace. So there are sort of sheer parts to this. So that's another interesting way you could play with that element. And then the last pattern I pulled up is by Style Arc, which is the Tiffany woven blouse. And this is a very classic style blouse that I think you've seen done sheer a lot of times, but it always stands the test of time. It works. So don't be afraid to play around with sheers, just not your sewing sheers. Sheer fabrics. Okay, number 5 on the list is soft, slouchy, often oversized bags kept popping up on the runway. Again, this is sort of one of those things that's in and out of fashion forever, so I don't think it really ever goes out of style completely. But I am not super familiar with a lot of great, handbag sewing patterns. I find most of the time the bags I gravitate towards are going to be made with leather or pleather, things like that frankly I haven't learned how to do yet. However, I do know of one slouchy bag sewing pattern. I've got it right here because I've made it. That is this boho style bag. So that bag is part of the Mimi G Sew It Academy subscription. So if any of you happen to be on there, that is a bag pattern that fits right into this that's on there. I also did find a sewing tutorial for a slouchy bag by Sewing Amore on YouTube. It might be free, I'm not 100%, but I'm going to leave a link to that video as well because there's a great tutorial for a similar style bag there also. Am I a big fan of slouchy bags? I'm kind of neutral on this one. I don't love or dislike them. Have I carried a slouchy bag? Clearly. I think generally I go for more structure in my bags, but I do understand the appeal because it's just easy. Throw it on, you go. You can fit a bunch of stuff in there. So I think this one will be another one you just see forever. Number 6, animal print. Okay, so I'm going to say something probably controversial here, but I am not a big animal print person at all. Again, do I think it can work? Absolutely. I have seen it look beautiful, so I'm not saying never. I do actually have a couple in my stash that I do like that at some point I will use. But on the whole, for me, I'm not a huge animal print person. I think you just have to be really careful how you use it because to me, it can go cheap sometimes. Sorry. Nobody get mad at me. Nobody come at me for that. But it just depends on how you use it. It doesn't mean it's going to look cheap, but I do think there's a very fine line writing with animal print. So that's just my personal take on it. But of course, I've seen it look beautiful. So I pulled up a few fabrics here. The first one is a Minerva fabric, which is the Minerva exclusive Animal Echoes Moroccan crepe. And I just thought crepe would be kind of a nice fabric to play with in animal print. The next one is also Minerva, which is an exclusive whiskered walk recycled crinkle sheer chiffon. Since we're seeing a lot of sheers this season, I thought the combination of the sheer and the animal print is a nice combo. I do kind of like it in a sheer fabric. So I pulled that up because it's kind of pulling from 2 of the different trends we're seeing. And then I also pulled up a mood fabric, which is the famous Australian designer Beige and Brown Zebra Stripes Lightweight Linen Woven. I thought this was a really nice animal print. And I think the weight of this would be fun to play with. We're going to get into a lot of layering and things. This was just a nice looking one. I thought the tones were really nice as well. I think that can really come into play when animal print works for me, is what tones are in the animal print. And I do think this is a really nice looking one. Number 7 is belts. Belts, 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 belts in every which way, over things, multiple belts, regular belts. I mean, it was just, again, everywhere. In terms of patterns, again, this kind of goes back to the way I feel about bags. There aren't a ton of cloth belted patterns that I love. I did make one on, again, the Sew It Academy recently, which I'll leave a picture of here for you to see, that I do think would be a good choice. I just think, again, fabric is going to be a big part of how successful that is. I do think some of the corseted style belts that are out there are really fun, but a lot of the belts that we're seeing are going to be leather. They're going to be, you know, leather crafted belts. So I don't mind this trend. Again, it's another one. This is how I feel about a lot of trends. It just depends on how you use it. I mean, would I throw on 6 belts most of the time? Probably not. I mean, if I was going for a really big fashion moment, maybe there would be some cool way to do that. But in a more practical sense, though, I don't mind a belt. So I'm not mad to see them on the runway. Number 8 on this list are slouchy knee-high style boots. I keep saying it, but again, this is sort of hit or miss for me. It depends on the boot. It depends on the styling. Do I think they can work? Yes, I do. Have I worn them before? Yes, I have. And I do like a knee-high boot in general. I think worn correctly, they're absolutely beautiful, especially in the fall time when you've got your skirts and your sort of knee-length dresses and things. So I do generally like this. Again, you're seeing a lot of that chocolate brown and suede. That is a way I would utilize that for sure. So I'm not mad at this one. All right, number 9 on our list, we are moving along here, are statement shoulders. I've worn mine today, so obviously I am kind of a fan of this one. Now, as I mentioned, a lot of times it's going to be massively exaggerated on the runway, so we're talking about a scaled down version that I do like. I think a nice sharp shoulder can look really good. As with everything, I do think it depends on what the garment is. I don't personally care for massive oversized pieces and then these giant shoulders. I think it's a little bit too much, but a nice tailored blazer or kind of a cool dress, I do think there's a way to make those kind of exaggerated shoulders look really nice. I don't know why this is the thing to do, but yes, I do generally like this. So the first pattern I have pulled up is another Vicky Sews pattern, which is Dress Sabrina. This is a very basic style dress that just has that elevated shoulder in it. I personally wouldn't choose the particular fabric that is on the model myself, but I like the overall pattern. I think, again, with the right fabric, could be really interesting. I'd like to almost see it in a stretch velvet. Does that sound crazy? That would be interesting to see for me, but this is a good looking, simple pattern that you could experiment with. The next I've pulled up is McCall's 8140, which is this sort of blazer dress pattern. There's several views that are all a little exaggerated in the shoulder, and I think this is a really fun one as well to play with. And then recently I actually made this pattern, which is McCall's 8146. Now I did view A and chose a viscose because I wanted the shoulder a little bit less dramatic, and I knew that having that extra drape would just tone it down a little bit because it is very exaggerated. And I loved it. I loved how that came out. So this is another one you could play around with. All right, number 10 are maxi coats. Maxi coats in trench coat style, in kind of slouchy drapey style, in traditional coat style. I mean, maxi coats all the way, all day. You know, it's funny because I didn't used to care for maxi length things, which is probably partly my height. I'm not tall or short. I'm kind of average height, and I just feel like I look shorter when I wear really long pieces like that. But living in a colder climate, I have totally understood why, because I want my legs covered. So I'm here for this trend. I'm going to roll through these patterns pretty quickly because there were so many, there were more than I could ever share in this one video. But so the first one I pulled up is Vogue 2074, which is this sort of cape trenchy coat style, sort of minimal with the button down, which seemed to fit into what I was seeing. The next is Vogue 2055, again, another trench style, and you've got that drape off the one side of the sleeve. There was a lot of draping going on as well, so I thought this was a good match. Next is Vogue 1926, which is a little more elegant and tailored, but I think this is absolutely beautiful. I really might consider making view B on this pattern because I really do like this one. Then we've got Nomi 2139 in this very classic maxi length style coat that will transition into winter as well. And it has, I believe the hood is detachable. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but this would be fun to play around with as well. And lastly, we have another Vicky Sews, which is the trench coat Dolores. I thought this was very sharp looking for a trench. I really like this classic silhouette with just a little bit of something modern about it. I don't know if it's just the neckline at the top and the collar being a little more exaggerated, but it feels very fresh. All right, on to number 11 on this list is the color purple. Lots and lots of purple everywhere too, lots of different shades, but primarily a darker tone is what kept popping up when I was searching. This is a color, I really actually do like the darker shades of purple, especially when there's a little more blue in it. It's not a color you see that often, but I do think it can work on a lot of people. Again, it just depends on the shade of purple. Is there more red or blue in that purple? What does your skin tone need? Is a lighter shade better, a darker shade better? I really think it's about finding your shade of purple, but it is a beautiful color, so I don't mind this either. So the first fabric I pulled up for this is for Mood Fabrics. It is a stretch ponte knit in an imperial purple, which I thought was very fitting. This kind of color was very similar to what kept popping up, and I also thought a stretch ponte would be a really good fabric for a lot of different makes. The next I pulled up was the Minerva Core Range Light Sheer Chiffon, but they have a ton of shades of purple in here too. It's not just this particular shade. So again, we're seeing a lot of sheer, so I thought let's pull up a chiffon. Lots of options there. So yeah, overall, I don't mind the purple. Number 12 on this list is plaid. Now, this is another funny one to me. I mean, fall and plaid, does it ever go away? Does it ever go away? I don't think so, but plaid kept coming up as well. I do like a good plaid. I wouldn't say I'm super heavy-handed with plaid. I don't wear it a ton, but when I do, I really enjoy it. I think most people at one point in their life have probably worn a plaid. I would be surprised if someone hasn't, although not completely shocked, but I do think it's kind of one of those things that's timeless that you see over and over every season. So I pulled up this Minerva Core Range polyester viscose suiting fabric because I thought this color blend here was really interesting. It's called Design 5, but you've got, again, those purples in it, so I thought that was fitting. I also found this one on Etsy, which is a tartan check, and I love the blue and the green. I think that's a very classic tartan, so that I would absolutely make, and I actually think I have a fabric a lot like this that I've been wanting to use. Maybe I'll get to it this season, but I do like a nice plaid. Okay, so 13 is one I kind of threw in for fun because most of these I chose and narrowed down because I kept seeing them over and over and over. This was one that I only saw brought up one time. That doesn't mean it wasn't a trend. It's just I only saw one person really talking about it. I latched onto it because not only do I like it, but I saw a pattern come out that fits right into this. So number 13 is embellished denim. Now, I like denim. I'm always going to like denim, so I'm a fan of it, and I like a little bedazzle. Now, again, this is one, though, that I do think you have to be careful with because it can go a little costumey if you're not careful, but if it's done well, I don't mind an embellished denim. There's certainly a way to go back to a 90s throwback with it, but McCall's just came out with this pattern, which is M8601, that is kind of the blazer with a little shoulder. You've got some embellishment on the denim. So I just immediately, my mind went to this when I was looking at the trends, and I thought it would be a fun one to share. I also think this could be a really cool one to do in a corset style top or bustier, again, if it's the right one. And even though you could use one that had a lot of seaming, I think a little less seaming might give you more wiggle room to play with on embellishing. That's just my opinion, but this is one I'm kind of excited to see just come to fruition and what people come up with. Number 14 on the list is quilted or puffy pieces. Now, obviously, we saw a lot of this with coats because, again, that's sort of a timeless thing that comes in and out of fashion, but we also saw it in some more unusual ways. Now, I can't help you with patterns for some of these more unusual dresses and things, but I can certainly point you to some options for the coats. I don't mind this trend either because, again, living in a colder climate, I ended up investing in a puffer style coat, which I don't think I'd ever had really before, not like a really big puffy one. They're super warm. So from a practical standpoint, I've just realized I don't mind it because it really does help. The first pattern I pulled up is Vicky So's Coat Villanelle. I just think this one is very classic, easy, sort of not frilly. I think this is one a lot of people would be comfortable in, and it's not doing anything too crazy that somebody might shy away from. The next one is definitely more of a statement for someone who probably enjoys streetwear, but that is Vicky So's Jacket Gale. But we've got those kind of interesting sleeves going on, the drop shoulder, so I thought it does kind of fit in with the trend, and obviously they've chosen a chocolate brown here. So that is another option. And then I did find a free sewing pattern from Mood that is actually my favorite aesthetically, which is the Fennel coat. I just think this is going to give you a little bit of shape because of the drawstring situation at the waist. And yeah, I just like the choices here. I think this is a nice solid coat. All right, and last but not least on the list is pointy-toed shoes. Now, this is one I do like as well. It is something I didn't try for a very long time, and then when I did, I don't know, I feel very like powerful woman in some pointy shoes. I don't know why, but I do enjoy wearing a nice pointy heel. I also saw a lot of kitten heels paired with the pointy toe shoe. Now, I think I'd go a little higher than that with a pointy toe myself, but I'm not like opposed to it. I mean, obviously I understand the practicality of the kitten heel, but I think I prefer the pointy toe shoe with a little more height myself. But on the whole, I actually do like this trend. All right, so there were many other trends that came up out there, but this was a more definitive list, I suppose, from what I found anyway, things that kept coming up over and over again. Let me know what maybe your favorite trend is, if you're planning on trying these, if you are going to sew any of these patterns or already have, and what you think about them. I would love to know your thoughts down in the comments, and I hope you enjoyed coming along for this little chat about the fall trends from the runway. If you're new to the channel, definitely consider hitting that subscribe button and coming along for more fashion and sewing content. And please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, because it really helps and I always very much appreciate it. Have a great rest of the week and I will see you soon. Bye.